Greetings. I'm going to talk about my favorite topic now, getting ready for an interview. Our course started with asking to think about candidates, what type of candidates you would want to hire if you're an employer. I hope that in the process of brainstorming and coming up with ideas of how to conduct interviews with those candidates, you probably intuitively managed to get this. Usually, when I tell people about it and prepare them for the interview, they feel that their brain will explode, and it totally changes their behavioral pattern. Not everyone is ready to change their behavioral pattern. We are going to try this now. If you succeed in changing your behavioral pattern, that is fine. If you don't succeed or succeed very little, it is okay. There are some notes on how to go through the interview. You have a hand-drawn picture. We drew it together in the groups. Here are various possible questions you should be asking the companies. You will get it, or you have already gotten and downloaded it. I'm not going to write anything on the whiteboard, describe the structure of the interview, etc. It makes no sense. Preferably, you take a piece of paper. I'm going to explain and tell the most important and primary things. First thing, it is expected that you do not give or go through the interview. You take or conduct an interview. So you interview yourself. Can you imagine the owner or a big personal director comes to interview you and they don't interview you? They will try, but your task is to prevent them from succeeding so that you succeed in interviewing them. These are totally different life approaches. The position of the author of his life and the position of the passive participant. Approach of the passive hostage is, where do they ask me? I intentionally use the word where. I go where they take me with their questions. I tell them what they dig up on me. I answer the questions that they ask me. Who ask questions? Those are motivated. That is why the approach mentioned shown the motivation of the company, the owners, and HRs. After passing the course, we have the most important tool for showing our own motivation. This is probably the only turn in our entire speech structure that helps to fully reveal a person's motivation. I'm going to illustrate this to you so you understand. For example, I want to work as a construction plant director. I'm asked whether I can construct a plant, and I answer, yes, I can construct a plant. So this is standard passive approach. This is one type of energy that I radiate, and it isn't clear. I can construct it, but do I really want to? Is it vital to me to construct it? It's not clear. However, if I'm an applicant and I ask the company, do you need to construct a factory? Because I can. Do you feel what is obvious in this question? Not only you can see my readiness to construct the factory, but this is something I'm passionate about. I'm interested in it, and I'm moving into that direction. I ask questions about what interests me. I intend and inspire to do. If I build factories, I'm not going to ask about building sandboxes and children's playground because I am not interested in that, but in factory. Or conversely, If I'm interested in building sandboxes, I will ask them whether they need someone to build sandboxes. I'm not going to ask about factories. Where my question is directed to, there my motivation goes. In other words, every question shows where my will is directed to. If I put my will to it, then I put my energy to it. I am ready to give energy there. At this moment, I invest all of my energy where my motivation is going. All my will. Whoever controls the question, he or she controls the initiatives in the interview process. If you are the one who asks questions during the interview as a candidate, and your interviewer simply answers those questions, then the initiative is in your hands, and you will lead where you need to go. They will see that you are genuinely a very motivated candidate who is interested in building a factory or making an accounting system transparent if you are a chief accountant, and so on. As someone who knows the questions and asks the questions, you set the movement vector, and that is why you conduct the interview. I have illustrated previous example of a passive question and answer intentionally. So you see how big the difference is between someone who responds passively and someone who is ready like an arrow in a bow. So, point 1. We conduct an interview with company. Now, how do we do it properly? There is a concept of interview structure. It's not about what type of questions to ask. This should all fall correctly into place later on. Interview structure is about something else. It is about the entry points and exit points, and about the points when you are heard and when you are not heard in the interview. That is, we come for an interview, and if we conduct the interview, just imagine, I am a candidate and I came to conduct an interview. I will now play the role of such a candidate. I come to an interview and say, "Hello, what a nice office you have." I gave them a compliment, or on the contrary, I come into a stuffy space and said, "You conduct interviews all day here. Why it is so stuffy in here? What are you breathing? You probably don't have enough oxygen," and so on. You see, you can even say something like that. There is nothing wrong in that. This does not characterize you as a person who said something indecent. On the contrary, you took care of them. They are the ones who sit in a stuffy room. You're fine. You talked for an hour and left, but they keep sitting here. The opposite is true. It is necessary to discuss it so they feel that you relate to them on a humane level, soulfully, and with understanding. Firstly, build a simple human contact. Then, if you're a man and the recruiter or your interviewer is a woman, do not rush into your seat. Ask where she will sit and move the chair for her. You look after her first and then go and sit opposite her. So you have sat opposite each other and have already established basic humane contact. If she's already seated when you enter, then great, everything is fine. You ask where you should sit. You sit down and make initial contact. Next, the structure is as follows. In 2 minutes, you say who you are, your goal, like this. I'm this. My strength is in this. My intention is this. My ideas are these, or plans, what it is that I want to invest my life into the most. So, you give it. You are not sold. You are not a product. So you see, there are groups on the internet. They are called Sell Your Head. And people perceive it as they sell their heads. You are not for sale. You are not an object. You shouldn't treat yourself this way. You invest your life and come to talk as an investor to another investor. They invest a salary in you, money they will be getting from their business, and give you a drop of that. You invest in them your life energy, your life, your light, your power. You invest in them the best that you can give, and this is what you talk to them about like equals, like an investor. By no means as a barefoot orphan who feels bad without money. Okay? You deliver to them this speech in 2 minutes, quickly, maybe even in 20 seconds, and ask, at your enterprise, in your organization, is this, all this necessary? Is all this required? If so, then invite them further to the conversation. Let's talk. If not, if nothing like this is needed, then I'm off. Usually this behavior of a candidate shocks HR. This is not because you will look strange or bad or weird. No, this is because the majority of people they are used to interview is passive. These people say, well, ask me, yes, I'm ready to do this and this. This is what I can do, but I can learn. This is passiveness. For a salary, we are going to do everything you tell us to do. Recruiters are not get used to this, to the other type of behavior, active one. They are not familiar with seeing people who run their own life. They are used to seeing people who come to sell themselves for hire. And the new approach throws them off track. My candidates who conduct the interview in this way tell me that when it happens, usually all the recruiters, HRs, personnel officers, and other junior staff get up and say, please, wait a moment, I will be back. Then they leave. 2 minutes after the beginning their interview, they go to get their director, grab him or her and say, come, there is a great candidate. Let's go and talk to him or her together. I was told different stories like were up to 6 people gathered. Once in General Electric, almost the whole board of directors come to look at the candidate. Because the candidate behaves as a member of the board of directors, like an equal among equals. Even if the candidate won't be part of the higher elite of the enterprise or organization, it doesn't matter. He or she is simply a warrior, ready to jump into battle for something to be, for something to become. Sometimes there are the opposite stories, where recruiters resist. because they are not used to this type of behavior and they are not willing to break the construct in their head so quickly. They're used to passive candidates, and suddenly an active candidate comes, and they don't want to accept this in their head. This process goes slowly and cracks. They resist it in any way they can. They say, here I am the one who asks questions, who decides this and this. They try to establish their power like this. Look, what is the main thing? A recruiter can make a mistake regarding you. Imagine he or she does make a mistake with you as a final candidate. The enterprise might suffer some losses, lose money. Something is not going to happen as expected. But this is not a bad for a big enterprise. It will get fixed. However, it is scary for you. If you get where you should not be, if you give 1, 2, 3 years of your life to an organization and work that you don't love, purely like a sale for salary, it is a problem of your incorrect behavior on the interview. I can compare happening in such a life with the movie Pretty Woman. The main female character tells Richard Gere, you and I do the same thing. Probably you have seen the film. According to the script, she's a prostitute who sells herself for money. And he buys big corporations, breaks them into pieces and sells them for less money and profits from commissions. Basically, she makes him see that they do the same thing. They trade their life. There is a very good moment in the movie, or rather a question, a silent one, which is not voiced directly. Until when we are going to keep trading our life? So, for someone who believes work is still a trade for their life, they consume their priceless lifetime. If you make companies see that you have gone beyond the paradigm of trade, you don't trade with them. You didn't come to the market where heads are worth something. If you say from a totally different position, I live, I breathe, I am happy when I do certain things, and I do them in a particular way, then they move beyond their position, outgrow the trade paradigm, transaction-like story, and say, listen, we really have such values. We would really like this. But HR and the recruiter usually will not be able to tell you this. As a rule, in the entire market, there are only a handful of HR teams who know the true values of the business owners, who know the true motives of the business owner. Why do they need this business? Do you see? The noble key holders do not know true values of the owner. They will state the mission to you that will sound noble on the outside, but they will most likely not do it in a lively way. And only the owner who can come to your interview can tell you his or her real values and his or her true reason. Why did they do this business? Why do they live in this activity, and how do they live? What fills them up here? What makes them feel filled up? Thus, when you start the interview with the recruiter or HR, moving away from the trade paradigm, you raise them to a level they cannot answer to you. And that is why the right and experienced recruiter or a personal officer has to run to the owner or the general director who is like-minded with the owner. If we talk about a big enterprise, they will grab them and bring them to the interview. Someone will definitely tell you about what drives them there. By the way, this is a good question. Don't forget about it. Ask, why are you working here? What warms your soul? This question will put 97% of the interviewers in a difficult situation. When all those people come, owners, directors, and so on, when the number of people increases, and you can talk to those people at this level, you can repeat to them exactly what you told the recruiter before that. Who I am, my goal, I came here for this and that, and so on. Because the only question that big owners, big businesses, billionaires are concerned about is, why did you come here? That's it. You can wait for them to ask you this question if you're a passive side. Or you can choose active strategy and ask them straight away. And your question will give them the answer about your reason to come. For example, do you need to construct the factory or not? I came for this. Immediately, a serious and deep talk begins. You start discussing not your experience or your personality, where in which companies you have worked up to date and so on. You start discussing what is it that you need to do for their business. This is the correct story. To achieve this, you need to have a very competent resume, and everything in there should be written, as we did, conscious and competent. If the recruiter resists and says, I'm the boss here, I ask questions, you can properly counter this remark by saying, you know, if you are not interested in who I really am, how long will this interview last for? An hour? You will waste an hour of your life, and I will waste an hour of my life in vain? So why should you and I waste an hour of our lives for this? What is the cost of an hour of your life? Calculate yourself. Sorry, mine is expensive, but I don't want to waste this hour. So, you tell me right away if there is something to do here. Can it be done in your organization, team, or not? If no, I'm off. Thank you. It's okay that I spent an hour and a half in the road to come here, but I didn't spend another hour just like that. That's it. This is what your behavior should be like. When you are so determined, the person who sits opposite you, a recruiter or head of a department, when you are so decisive to make the impression of a person who will come, roll their sleeves up and get to work right away. Someone who can get into the line and start moving things. You have a lot of energy for this. You are charged and ready to start working. Based on my experience and the clients I work with, people go through interviews in one day in such a way, and the next day they go to work. My first experience of this time was with General Electric. I was looking for a production director for big factory. A candidate came who went through 5 interviews in one day in GE. And the last was interview late in the evening with the general director. I called him during the day and asked him, "Where are you? You didn't call me back regarding the interview results. You had an interview in the morning and you haven't informed me about it yet. How did the interviews go in the company?" And he says, at this moment, "I cannot. I'm still at the interview. I will call you in the evening." In the evening, he tells me, "I'm starting work tomorrow." I said, "How?" He answered, "I went through 5 interviews today." This is how the person behaves. 2 minutes from the start, and off you go. Next, they discuss how to build a contract production based on his questions, which are not like, "How do you have something arranged there?" but questions about, "How are we going to do this?" We. Firstly, there is already a word "we" there. Secondly, we are going to do it. Do it. How are we going to do it? And he goes through the interview as if it was his first day at work. And he's already discussing all the production processes, getting into the course of action as a new employee. This is normal, correct, and good interview. I would even say an interview where you score 5 out of 5. The rest of the interviews that got 4 out of 5 lead to the following. So imagine, 5 candidates have been interviewed. We didn't find the ideal candidate. There is a better one among them, and they hire him or her. In those cases, either the candidate resigns from their job because it didn't reach their expectations, or the company will find all sorts of excuses to terminate the services, the employment of this person. Going back to the interview structure, you enter, establish a contact, and express your goal in 2 minutes. Next, you talk about your goal to another group, which makes decisions. You acknowledge that there are topics to discuss, and here, attention. Based on the interview structure, there is a moment which you need to catch, a moment of trust. 10 minutes. As a rule, it takes around 10 minutes to build a bridge of trust towards each other. It is built from both sides. Sometimes it takes 1 hour and a half. My experience shows that unless the bridge is built from both sides, the sides don't listen to each other. They can hear the speech, but they don't absorb something more important that comes from each side. According to the structure, you need to realize that you will ask and talk about all the important things only after you start trusting each other. You can start your conversation from what will help build this trust. You can start talking about yourself as a person. It is not necessary to talk about you as a professional. I know that what I'm telling you now breaks the cliches of interviewing in all the textbooks on interviewing. On social media, people teach differently. But I'm telling you what works and how it works. If trust hasn't been established yet, and people start talking about the experience, what they have done, it all goes to waste. It is unnecessary. For the bridge to appear, start asking different questions. Look at the picture with 25 types of questions that you have. The questions can be regarding strategies, companies, history, products, services, goods, internal business structure. This is for later, towards the end. What is the company lacking in general? What does the company currently need? You can start with that. What stage of the business development are you at? How have you been growing before that? What is that you need at this stage? These are all good questions to start with. With regards to the company's principles, values, this is a bit further away. What are the principles the company is built on? What about moral standards? People who work here in terms of the atmosphere, corporate culture. You will get to this later. Questions about the management style, about ethics, about company's responsibilities and obligations, various questions about powers, statuses. Leave all these for the end. About all sorts of organizational structures subordinate to you, ask at the very end. Many people, for whatever reason, ask this question at the very beginning. What will be the structure in this department to which you invite me? So, it doesn't mean at the beginning. The owner thinks, in this case, what difference does it make? You can create whatever structure you want because we invite you to manage this department. Therefore, such small organizational questions do not need to be asked at the very beginning. Use first questions about the situation. So these are situational questions. What is the current situation in the company? Why did you open the position? Why do you need this person? The recruiter of the team that came might start talking about it. And when they do, try to ask them a lot of reverse questions. Reverse questions is a great thing, which works fine. I love them. We are talking about reverse, not recursive questions. According to the structure, this question is very long, with 3 parts in it, and sounds roughly like this. First part. Tell me how you evaluate business performance indicators. So, at first, you asked the question, direct their attention towards business indicators. Second part of the reverse question. Then move away from it, as if stepping back in the question and say, it is important for me to know this because in the business where I used to work, business indicators were calculated like this. And at some point it was normal, but after such and such events, it led to the fall, decline, disintegration of the company, bankruptcy, and so on. So you made an excursion into your experience, dived into your past. The third part of the reverse question. You emerged from there saying, therefore, it is very important for me to know how it all works here, these business indicators, and return to the initial question. It is like taking and bowstring. It's a pity I don't have anything here that looks like an arrow. I will show with my hands. As if you have an arrow, you put it, show the direction where you will shoot, pull it back to the past, talk about the experience, your previous experience, and then shoot. The arrow flies in the direction with all power. Your question in terms of energy will be infused with power, importance, and fullness. Your question does not indicate only your curiosity. It shows your real experience, which you intend to give back there. The arrow is like your question, the vector where the thought is directed at that moment for everyone in this discussion. First, you determine this thought and then send it. This is what I call the reverse question. It is very powerful. According to the further interview structure, it turns out that if you use these reverse questions, then it makes no sense for you. There is no need to tell stories about your experience. When I worked at ABC, there was, and so on. And when I worked at another company, there was that, and so on. Very passive, very passive. You see, it makes no sense to talk about all this because essentially by asking questions, you have already said what lessons you have learned from your previous work. And you broadcast it back to the future. Also, you show that you can learn your lesson. You pay attention to something important, what happens inside the company, and since you have learned your question. You mean it is important for you that this mistake does not happen here. So no one steps on the same rake. When you ask the first one or two reverse questions, and the company begins to answer them, at that moment you need to actively participate in all this. Your lively participation in the discussion lights them up and what they cherish as they talk about the most meaningful matters to them. At that moment, a magic bridge will be built, and you will start to hear each other. This moment, when you have established interaction, is as if the teeth of the gears have closed. You hear each other, and it will really be heard. It will not fly out. You begin to feel each other. When this level of feeling is achieved and trust has been established, the most important questions you can discuss. If you leave the interview and get a feeling that you didn't reach the state of trust, you feel it because you will never lie to yourself. You left the interview and realize trust wasn't established at 100%. There is something where we didn't match, something didn't fit right. It may be it was close, but something didn't match perfectly. This is not your company. Don't be upset. Oh, wow, they would not hire me. It's better to think, oh God, this company is not for me. Be happy that you sincerely admitted to yourself that this is not your company, because every unsuccessful step brings us closer to our goal. We can jokingly and seriously imagine that. For example, we need to make 10 or 20 unsuccessful attempts to reach the goal. And now you have already made 6 unsuccessful ones, which means how many left until the 20th? 14 already. There are less attempts, and your goal is approaching you because you go through interviews and hone your skills in formulating your goal and conducting interviews. You conduct interviews with them yourself. You charge yourself with all this and talk through your goals on your own. He does. I'm moving towards my goal. I continue. I'm on my path. Sometimes companies call and say, we actually have a different position and we want to discuss with you not the previous position, but another one. Okay, come to them again and talk. Never make decisions right away. These are my recommendations, although I always recommend people not to make a decision right in the meeting and not to say, yes, I am ready, I will sign up and start work tomorrow. Until you have 2 or 3 more other job offers and they have more candidates, so everyone can choose from. I do not recommend accepting immediately. But you see, in my experience, it turns out that there are exceptions. With one of the clients who I work for, I showed them the candidates and they immediately hired one of them and he went to work the next day. I show them the next candidate and again they hire him and he immediately starts work. I said, guys, what are you doing? I tell the company, look at other candidates too, please. I tell the candidate, wait, this is the only offer for you. Choose some more. And both sides told me, no, I would not choose. They suit me perfectly. I want to work with them. And this match happens immediately. This is what is called chemistry. If the chemistry has already been developed and you know that everything is 100% good, then you sign the offer. Try to get a written job offer in which figures, plans, etc. you need to achieve are clearly stated. Usually, when you attend a number of interviews and choose from different companies, you don't have a totally sincere feedback from each company. And you don't know whether you are the best candidates for the company or somebody else. Do they prefer you or another candidate? Most of the time you can observe that if the company likes you, they start courting you with attention. They call you later and give you feedback. All is good, we really liked you. There is another director to talk to. Shall you come for another interview with them? Our sales director would like to invite you to a restaurant for a dinner and discuss various work details, and so on. In other words, they make efforts to attract your attention. If they start courting you, this is good. It means that they genuinely liked you. They don't try to suck up to you or seem like the best option for you. Please come to us for work. No. It is a natural gravity process. Imagine, we entered the field via the interview. We clicked and realized that that's it. We ought to work together. This is for me. They got you and you got them. At that moment, your paths part slightly. You go to other interviews and they continue seeing other candidates. If at that point the chemistry, the connection was real, then they need to start moving towards you to reach you and invite you to additional interviews, take you to the headquarters for the discussion, invite you to the enterprise, show you how everything works, and so on. They make an effort to approach you, to unite with you. A natural magnetic process takes place. And what happens is this process I call attentiveness, because they invite you to restaurants, enterprises, tell you everything about the company or organization. It resembles when a young couple starts dating and the man gets his lady flowers, pays attention to her, he's open to interact with her. You can wait for these signs of attentiveness, based on which it will be clear how valuable you are for the company as candidate. In case you are offered a contract straight away and you start work the next day, I wish it is that ideal story and not a situation where you are hired because they couldn't find anyone else. It is up to you to figure it out, whether this is your story or not. These are the most important things: initial contact, goal setting. I stay if there is something to discuss, and I leave if there is not. Next, 1 or 2 questions before the moment of trust is established, a sense of each other during the process. Then, when trust is formed, discussion of the most deep and important questions and exit from the interview without confirmation. At the end, shake each other's hand and agree that both sides will think about it and give each other opportunity to think. The duration of an interview can also be an indicator. Now I am in the process of selecting IT candidates. Those people are very busy. There are many brilliant programmers, and they say, "Our meeting is going to last not more than 1 hour." I say, "Yes, an hour." Then, at the interview, 3 or 4 hours have passed. They still discuss and socialize. You can drag them out of it. And then finally they go to work. You see? If a person spends more than 1.5 hours in a company, especially 2, 3, 4 hours, this means that it is not a discussion about their candidature anymore. It is a discussion about their work. Let's think about how you are going to do these things in our company. So this is more than the interview. I can add that there are cases of stressful interviews. Stressful interviews is not when someone shouts at you. No. Consider an interview during which someone shouts at you or behaves inappropriately, as in something awkward one. This is not stressful. A stressful interview, the scariest stress, comes from an indifferent interview. When you arrive and no one cares about you. Yeah, so what? Well, tell us. Okay, fine. And at the same time, they can talk to someone else, discuss something, and lazily look at you. This is a stressful interview. Because the person not only needs to mobilize him or herself and conduct the interview, the situation shows that they are not interested in you or the situation. They called you, they talked to you, but it is very hard to grab their attention. Firstly, do you need a company that conducts such interviews? This is a question to you. Secondly, in fact, they could be testing you and your reaction, because later on you will start work at the company where you will need to deal with indifferent clients, and your task will be to awaken them. If your future work is related to shaking off this indifference, then you might be tested for that during the interview. It doesn't mean that the interviewers are bad people and that they are genuinely indifferent. No, they just pretend. It is a well-played role. After all, it is hard to play indifferent because At that moment, people start laughing. Sometimes I conducted stressful interviews and made people go through this mid grinder. Only 1 out of 10 passes the interview in this case. But at that moment, I usually start laughing. Only the outside you show cold indifference. But on the inside, you want to explode from laughter. We just play the role because we understand that later on the candidate will need to move murky waters, so to speak. And if they cannot move my murky waters, how are they going to make it at work? That is why it is done. You need to come up with something in order to shake the waters. You can say a joke, if you wish, or drop a pen on their desk and say, "Oops, your pen fell down." Say, "How about some coffee? Would you like some? I will go to the secretary and ask her to bring coffee." And they will say, "And who are you? Why are you giving orders here?" You say, "It seems you have a very serious discussion between yourselves. You gathered here to talk about it without me. Your own topics. You are busy people, right? I came for the interview. I am this and that. This is my name. If here and now your topic is more important than mine, let me at least offer you a drink, so I don't just sit here doing nothing. Maybe I can bring you some pears. It is a lunchtime, don't you think? Maybe we can go and have lunch together and discuss everything there." You see, you need to gain the attention of those who play indifferent. People say, "Okay, we are not going to discuss our own topics. Fine. Okay. Who are you? Why did you come?" And the interview structure starts and everything flows. You need to do something extraordinary or unexpected sometimes. It is a test for your originality. There is nothing complicated here. If you are someone who follows the rails and is ready to be only ordinary, then you will fail such interviews. Therefore, any role that requires moving some kind of deep waters, stagnant stories, when there is no development or growth, they are not for you. If you couldn't shake a small swamp using your creativity, you will be unable to shake creatively a big swamp at work. That's it. This is about the scariest interviews. Sometimes recruiters ask the wrong questions. Any question that recruiter asks and you find incorrect, like, "Are you married?" or "Do you have kids?" Some people are okay with these sort of questions. Some others say, "Why are you asking me this?" A 50-year-old lady told me once, "Why do you ask me about that? I'm fully entitled not to have children." I said, "Sure, no problem. Don't take it personally when it happens." Some people ask those questions due to their stupidity, naivety, inexperience, but the answer will follow. There will be resentment in the answer. There will be irritation, hostility, and the person understands, "Aha, when I ask uncomfortable questions, we immediately feel offended. Yeah, we are offended. We are irritable." And they immediately register all this. The person is annoyed, offended, and write everything down on their paper. I mean, recruiters. If the question is uncomfortable for you, just answer. You know, this is a difficult question for me, and I don't really want to answer it. Oh, yes, I didn't work for a long time because I was looking after my sick mother. She recently passed away, and now I can work. And then the recruiter asks you, what was your mother's sickness? And you may not even share this with your friends. Why you should tell a stranger recruiter about it? This is a private story. What your health problems was. Why to discuss it? You say, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. And calmly walk away from this question. Here in this structure, information is written about the external form, how we come to the interview, what we wear, whether we are on time or not. It is clear that you need to come in advance. Never be late for an interview. At least, if you are late, then let them know I'm running late 10 minutes. I will be half an hour late due to the traffic jam, etc. I think it is pretty clear regarding being late. In terms of dress code, it is quite debatable, but I think that everybody knows well what is appropriate to wear in the sphere. Bankers wear suits and ties. IBM is maybe one of the few IT companies that has a specific dress code and is not willing to break it. If you are uncertain, you can always ask the agency and the recruiter you are going to. How do people dress for interviews in your company? What if I wear a sweater because I will be coming straight after a trip on the train or plane? Can I wear a sweater? The recruiter will tell you, yes, you know they mostly wear suits, but if you fly in from a business trip, it is okay, come in a sweater. And you say, sure, I could drive home, change into a suit, but then I won't arrive in the morning. I will arrive in the evening. And they say, no, better in the morning. Wear a sweater, okay, but be here in the morning, please. They already understand that. They will not have any expectations about your appearance. You warn them, and this is normal, this is good. If you are in the IT business, everyone goes there in ordinary shirts. If this is a specific business, you can come there in work clothes to show how, for example, you repair a crane or respectively do something else. So you either bring a change of clothes with you, or immediately come wearing work clothes and say, what about an interview? Where do you have a crane here? I will just show you on the spot. For a working person, it is important to demonstrate their skills. There is nothing much to discuss, talk about. For women, please never come to an interview wearing a décolleté top, because your objective in this case, objective of such candidate is not clear. Does she need a job or does she need a personal relationship at this job? Never come wearing a lot of jewelry, even gold, any type of jewelry. Sometimes people come with gold hanging all over them, which makes the recruiter wonder, excuse me, did you come to work or to show how worthy rich you are and how much gold you have? Have you come to a jewelry show? The question, why I am here, should always determine your interview dress code. Have a look at the rest of the topics that I haven't fully elaborated on and ask questions via writing in the group. If there are frequently asked questions regarding interviews, then we will make another video to cover these questions. After you watch this video, understand how the interview structure works. Your task is to prepare for 2 minutes interview with your consultant, me or whoever guides you. You prepare a short format of the elevator pitch for about 20 seconds, and then 2 or 3 reverse questions, and prepare a long format because you need to be completely ready for going through an interview in our course. For participants of the course, we'll have an interview together. It might not last for an hour, but 15 or 20 minutes. Quite long. At least it will be clear through it whether you pass or not. It will be obvious in the first 2 minutes. However, in 10 minutes, it will be absolutely clear what is it that you need to correct. You will go and correct it, change it, and then come back for another interview until victory. After that, many of you will start having interviews in companies. You go to different companies and keep notes about what really happened there. And then, in the form of a small report, you send it to your consultant. Very briefly, at least 2 lines. That, for example, it turned out to be an adequate conversation. But this is not for me because, and so on. The company, the people, in terms of human qualities, points are very close in spirit, but it will be cramped for me here. The scale is small, it is a small field for activities. Or conversely, they offer a lot. I'm afraid I won't make it. There may be different stories, and you will discuss them with your consultant. Because in every situation, you can find some points. Sometimes you can go to the company that is too small for you and just work part-time for a while. Agree with them that you will work on a project for 2 or 4 months. Sometimes you can go to the company where you think that you will fall apart. There are too many responsibilities and you cannot handle them. But you need to correctly come to an agreement that you will not take on everything. Together with your consultant, you can figure out how to negotiate correctly. It could be that you match with a company. There was chemistry. They really liked you. They are ready to hire you. But you are afraid of something. Maybe you can contact them and formulate this in a specific way in the job descriptions, so they later won't claim anything from you because you broke, you're a loser, you framed the company, you didn't fulfill your obligations, and so on. In our human world of relationships, everything can be agreed upon. The most important thing is to succeed in an interview 100%. To go through at least one interview in which we will get not 99 but 100%. We hit the point with an error and our heart tells us, this is for me. This is my choice. I will be happy there. Until this magical moment happens, we go through these interviews. When it does happen, you will move on to the next stage, which will be called signing a contract or signing job offers. That's all. Thank you greatly. Take care.